Hey, Kent, are you good?
I'm great. Let's start the show.
You're
Good to
great.
hear.
Shut up, Craig.
Rude.
Rookie minicamp is upon us, and actually, it's come and gone. It's not even upon us. It's out the door. We have takes. Let's hear them.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Welcome into a live off-season edition of the KC Laboratory presented by Emprise Bank, member FDIC. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I'm here with my two wonderful friends, Maddie Land and Craig Stouts. Matthew, how we doing?
Buddy, there's a lot going on over here. You had a baby recently, had a baby lamb the other day. I don't know what I'm doing with a baby lamb. I've had more practice with kids than I have baby lambs, so that's a new experience. It's been a busy time, and I'm going to say, if Kendrick drops another track and just continues to mop the floor, Drake, we're going to have to put a pause to the show while we go listen live because I'm waiting for this. I'm on the edge of my seat, Craig.
Yeah, I know you are, buddy. You've been locked in. That's the best word for it. Locked in right now. I also don't know what to do with the baby lamb, despite what any of these other individuals might say here. But
that's not what you said last night on
the phone. But anyway, no, it's good. We got a little tidbit of Chiefs football before it's going to go away for a little while again here. And so we get a couple topics to talk about heading into the offseason.
I don't think you need to call a lamb a baby lamb. I think it's just a lamb.
At what point does we go from a lamb to a sheep? I mean, what point?
It doesn't matter
because
it goes from lamb to sheep, and at no point is it a baby lamb.
But it is. There's a big difference between a 2-day-old lamb and a 2-month-old lamb. Okay, is that a sheep at 2 months? They're entirely different creatures. Got to take care of them different ways. I've done the research. Have you?
I have actually.
Okay, continue.
Very quickly. And at 1 year, a lamb becomes a sheep.
Okay, so right now it's currently a baby.
It's a lamb, not a baby lamb, just a lamb.
It's like an infant versus a toddler.
Yeah, toddler's very broad. That feels more broad.
So is lamb.
I think this. I think this is more consistent. I'm sorry.
Hey, did you guys know that rookie minicamp started and ended?
I like this
it's
so
come
much
and
better.
gone.
Yeah, it has. It has come and gone, and it's always kind of fun to just see these players in their first. The cheeseburger scale is not back, Timothy.
It's not. I had to change up the scale. It's more numerical and straightforward. We'll get to it later.
Oh, I'm so fascinated by this. Anyways, yeah, we'll get into that. We're going to do some positional breakdowns here a little bit, but we are going to talk about, just kind of the mini camp off the top. There's it's always fun to kind of see these guys in uniform, getting to see them moving around a little bit. Like there's not a ton of ginormous takeaways, right? But there are some things that are definitely a little bit more encouraging to kind of see. Not the one singular drop that we saw of Xavier Worthy that Bills fans are somehow like claiming they won the trade over, which is just hilarious if you think about like how many trades they've lost and how many games of significance they've lost to the Chiefs. And they're just like, oh, yep, we won. Okay.
One rookie minicamp video. We clearly won.
Championship. They're probably going to hang a banner for that one. But yeah, Maddie, it's kind of fun to see those rookies out there.
Yeah, those guys are out there tearing up the air. This is the one thing that I have a really hard time getting super jazzed about rookie minicamp because we don't get to see a lot. I think that's the bigger thing too, is you don't really get to see much because there's a very limited amount of like press release or like media time in which they get to film and release anything. So you're essentially going off of just a couple paragraphs that people have, bless you, Craig, have every single day. And then you have whatever Andy is going to sit there and say in the press conference. And that's just going to be Andy sticking up for his guys. So I have a little bit of a tough time getting overly jazzed over rookie minicamp. However, the one thing that I can say for certain from what I have seen this, Xavier Worthy, he can run better routes than McCole Hardman is a wide receiver that a lot of haters like to compare him to. So like just seeing him get in and out of a couple cuts, seeing him run a couple of these drills, like, hey, This isn't a straight line guy. This is a very flexible, very good route runner, or at least has the physical traits to be a good route runner at the next level. So like that's 2 thumbs up, and everything from there we'll kind of see as it keeps going.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I think we can take away from rookie minicamp. Yes, it's routes against air. Yes, they don't have anybody that's up there in their face or anything like that, but it's crisp out of Worthy. All these videos that we're getting are very crisp outside of a drop. That was basically the first video that everybody saw because it was his first rep of training camp. And guess what? Looked like a guy that was very focused on do the drill right, do the drill right, do the drill right. And then right at the end of it, drops the pass. I thought it was very funny. Our buddy Arif Hansen, he posted a video.
Arif Hassan.
Hassan, good night. My brain just short circuited there. I am so sorry, Arif. Yeah.
Your brain was working like Xavier's hands.
Yes, thank you. I'm very sorry, Arif.
The Bills trophy case.
Anyway, he published a video of Derrick Henry's first rep of training camp. And boy, Xavier Worthy's looks great by comparison. So, take all of this with a grain of salt. I know that Twitter was freaking out after the video came out there and everybody was losing their damn minds. That's what Kent is referencing with the Bills there. Them saying, oh, we won the trade because he dropped his very first rep of training camp. Look at the rest of them. Look at the way that he moves out there. Look at the suddenness, the crispness. Everything is very clean. The way that he cuts, the way that he moves, everything is very clean. And that's why every single player that has been interviewed, that has done any sort of podium visit at all this week, the number one thing to come out of their mouth, yeah, Xavier's fast. Like he is crazy fast. We don't know what to do with this. It's so fast. It's not just that. That's what everybody's going to hang on. That's what they're being asked about. It's the crispness. It's the cleanness. It's the cuts that he's doing there that are the most important things, because those are things that we haven't seen out of these faster wide receivers that have gone in the NFL lately.
I think the funny thing is if he was just fast, he'd still be just pretty good. But there's still a lot of value there and a lot he can do. That kind of annoyed me that people were like doing like, I don't know, running a parade because he dropped one singular pass. But the funny thing is too, is I think he looks a lot like how McCole looked physically this last season. Like we know McCole Hardman weighed 186 pounds coming into, the NFL. But if you saw the weight he was playing at this year, it did not look like the same kind of McCole Hardman we saw. And I think Xavier Worthy looks much more similar to, what we saw McCole kind of playing at this year too. So like, if you want to use that as a barometer to say, okay, like guys this size can play at this like level, like there it is. Andy Reid had some interesting comments on some of the players here, and some takeaways from some of these guys. And we can kind of continue on with the Xavier Worthy conversation with a quote that we have here about Xavier Worthy's performance in camp. Obviously we've talked a little bit about the route running. We've talked a little bit about the speed, but Andy Reid was very impressed by how he was able to retain things, how he's able to pick things up, how he's able to learn the playbook. I thought he did a nice job picking things up and working through things. Andy Reid said we asked him to do a whole lot of stuff here. He was put in mostly the primary spots. So it was good for him to get in there and move around a little bit. He's a sharp kid. That's always a good thing to see, especially since one of the biggest learning curves when it comes to an Andy Reid playbook, an Andy Reid rookie trying to get acclimated to an offense, is learning multiple spots and being able to handle a very difficult playbook, Matthew.
So they've mentioned this. Actually, no, let's get sidetracked first. The Kansas City Chiefs just tweeted out a picture of all of the rookies at rookie minicamp, the draft picks. And it is the funniest thing I have ever seen, because Xavier Worthy is standing in between Kingsley and Hunter Norzad, standing up in the background with Jared Wiley and CJ next to him. They have the other two smalls kneeling in front of them. So the tiniest man in the picture standing in between the biggest guys on the team. And it's the funniest looking thing I've ever seen. Sorry,
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. He looks like he's the Chiefs' first-round draft pick and going to have probably the biggest impact of any player in this draft class, and he looks like somebody's little brother out there. Why did they organize them that way?
Can we?
They did it on purpose. They did it on purpose, right?
I need to ask producer Tuck a question really quickly. Producer Tuck, are we permitted to share this photo on the show right now? Is that
I can edit it up.
you can?
Yeah, I'll edit it and I'll let you know when it's in there.
So yeah,
that'll be perfect.
We're gonna get back to this.
Thank you, buddy.
Sorry. Oh my
We're
God.
gonna get back to this.
Okay,
but
so back to the point. They have mentioned numerous times that Worthy is a very smart football player. Apparently, that was straight from Sarkisian, the head coach at Texas, because him and Andy are close. Now, obviously, he's going to stand up for his guy. He is going to stand up for people, that he believe in and things like that. Like, it's going to make sense to talk highly about your guy. But the Chiefs believed that he's a smart football player. We've heard that from other people not related to the Chiefs have described him as a smart football player. So it's no surprise to me that he's kind of come in and been able to impress them with his ability to retain the information, to learn the playbook, to do multiple things, to play multiple roles. I don't think that's surprising, but it's really nice to hear or really nice to see, because I do think that is something that you always worry about when you think fastest player in the NFL history. You're like, oh, can he play football or is he just fast? I think it's pretty clear that Worthy is not just fast, and I think the IQ and his ability to understand the game really shows that, and they're trying to get that point across to us.
Yeah, Andy came out and said he is playing all three wide receiver spots and made sure to stress we don't have anybody else doing that. We don't have anybody else that we feel comfortable lining up in all those spots. As a matter of fact, he even stated it's very rare that we have had guys that have come in that have run in all three wide receiver spots and as a punt returner. That speaks to his ability to pick up the playbook already. He alluded to the fact that, hey, some of these concepts are pretty similar to what I ran in Texas. I know this playbook a little bit. I've seen some of this before. So yes, some of that transitions may be a little bit easier, but in the same vein, you don't have guys at Andy Reid, in Andy Reid rookie minicamps that come in and do this, period. We talk all the time about how wide receivers in year one with Andy Reid have a very limited playbook, have a very limited impact on the team. I know that Rashee Rice coming in last year kind of broke the mold a little bit, but even that was a slower start as they eased him into some of the things that he needed to do. It wasn't until towards the end of the year that we were seeing him move around a little bit more, that we were seeing the broader route tree. It sounds like they're putting all that on Xavier Worthy's plate immediately. And if Andy's already impressed by that, well, that's good. Andy's never going to come out and say, oh, this guy sucks. He's doing terrible at this. Never, ever going to say that. But what you'll see is things that we've seen about other guys. It's like, hey, you got to keep your head up. Maybe, play some of this way. We need to see a little bit more here. We need to see a little bit more here. It's not effusive praise like it has been for Xavier Worthy so far in Kansas City. That's something that I just kind of tucked into the back of my brain here, that putting this much on his plate. Andy is so excited for it. I'm wondering if we're going to see an even bigger impact than I'm even thinking. And I've got high hopes for Xavier Worthy year one. I'm wondering if we're going to see week one Xavier Worthy be a major impact to this offense, whereas maybe I was thinking, yeah, we'll see it in spots early on, but maybe towards the end of the year, we see some development out of this guy. It may be a walk in and play immediately sort of deal for Worthy.
Yeah, you hear the Chiefs talk about starting as package players and graduating into more of a full-time role, but an ability to pick up this stuff so quickly could help them, could help Worthy bypass, the package player tag in more of a full-time type of role, a bigger workload, a heavier workload where it's not just, a package or two just to kick things off. And, they might be pushing him a little bit harder to try to get done just because, they might have some question marks sitting at the wide receiver position too, potentially with Rashee Rice. So I like that we're seeing him get involved a little bit very quickly. By the way, also want to shout out Charles Goldman, A to Z Sports. He's accumulated some of these quotes, and he's definitely grabbed some of the interesting ones here too, for sure. Moving on, Andy Reid talking a little bit about Jared Wiley and liking Andy Reid said he likes what he saw out of Jared Wiley. He likes, that his ability as a route runner, getting big kid, can change directions. He was good at blocker in college, so we'll see how that transfers. Sounds like the passing game side of it has been very encouraging for Andy Reid on the Jared Wiley front, Matthew.
Yeah, it sounds like, so with these camps, it doesn't sound like they do a lot of run game work, right? Andy Reid's pretty much come out and said like, hey, we don't work on the run game here. They actually don't in OTAs really either. It's all passing. So it's going to be, this is where you're, this is going to be where you're going to get the receiving skills and everything like that. It looks like Wiley has been catching everything. He has looked very good. Some quarterbacks have come out and said like, hey, he's where he needs to be. They've specifically noted working across the field, finding him on crossers and stuff like that. And it sounds like the reports about Jared Wiley have been very positive thus far. I think we still have to temper expectations. He has had the next Travis Kelce. He has had Travis Kelce replacement heaped on him. And this is a day 3 draft pick that is still transitioning to play tight end. It might take him a little bit. I don't think we got to make sure we don't jump the gun based on rookie minicamp here, because I think some people are already edging towards that part, doing that into this season because the athleticism, because there are some similarities to Travis Kelce. There's a lot of players that have tried to go to the NFL with similarities to Travis Kelce, and there's been one Travis Kelce. So I do think we got to be a little careful with that. But that said, it sounds like his receiving has gone very well so far. Hopefully that'll carry over to OTAs when they can start doing more one-on-ones, no contact, but like more one-on-ones, get a little bit deeper in the playbook. How much did he retain going from a relatively simple TCU offense to an Andy Reid offense? It's going to be a lot more complex and ask him to do a lot more things.
And the thing with Andy on this one is he's impressed by his cuts. He's impressed by his movement ability. He's impressed by his breaks. And that's good. We see Jared Wiley as more of a move tight end in this scheme. Andy even alluded to it. It's like, we haven't put pads on yet. We haven't lined up. We haven't done any of the things that would kind of give us a good barometer where he is as a run blocker. He didn't seem super hyped about what he was going to see from that, but was very impressed by that. Chris Olodokun, quarterback that's playing.
Oladokin.
No, I'm calling him
What do you call him?
Listen, I'm calling him Chris. So old Chrissy boy.
Chriso.
Here. He is kind of Pat's vessel for this mini camp here. He's talked about it a lot, where he says, I'm talking to Pat every day. I'm calling him on the phone every day. I'm describing where these guys like the ball, what I'm seeing, the sorts of things that I'm, seeing, the positive developments, the negative stuff, everything like that. And he just wanted to gush about Worthy and Wiley, both of them, just like, hey, this is different. We haven't seen this in a little while. And it's not like Chris is sitting there in all of these camps, doing nothing. He's around. He's been around this team. He's seeing Travis Kelce. He's seeing all of these NFL level wide receivers. And the fact that he's out here and he's throwing to these guys and he's so impressed and he's got a call and gush to Mahomes about it is a very positive thing. This isn't just smoke from the team that we are hearing here. The fact that Andy Reid really likes what he is seeing in the passing game for both these guys, the fact that Chris really likes what he's seeing throwing to both of these guys is an incredibly positive development. We did not see this kind of hype coming out of last year's rookie minicamp. Now, we saw a lot of hype coming out of training camp. So, everybody withhold your expectations for this year, because we obviously saw how that went for the receiving weapons as the year went along. But this is different. This feels different. The approach just feels different in what they're doing there. So I'm excited once they get into real OTAs and the real mini camp, where we start seeing kind of how they match up against some of these guys that have been on the field for a long time in this offense.
All right, moving on. Andy Reid talking about the young offensive line group, saying it's one of the best groups that he thinks that they've had. I thought it was good, Reid said. I'll be curious to see when our other guys get in here. I mean, we're not going live, so you've got to see. There's no run game. So other than that, sorry. We said we're not doing anything that we're not doing that against each other. So you're not going to see that going on. But I liked what I saw. From what I saw, it's going to be one of the best young offensive line groups we've had in here collectively. Now, 3 draft picks along that offensive line this year. So I think there's definitely an influx of talent and a group of players that this team is quite interested in. So it's good to hear that this group has hit the ground running. He had some praise for Kingsley Suamataia, but as a group, felt pretty good about what he saw from the young offensive lineman. A long ways to go, especially at that position, but you like to hear positive reviews, especially when 3/7 of your draft class is those guys.
Speaking of the group, I think it's time to pull up the Chiefs rookie draft pick group shot.
Yes.
Let's go. I can't.
By the way, number 12 is Jared Wiley. That is not an offensive lineman, despite his length there.
Oh my goodness, that picture cracked. And I get it. They did all offense in the back and the defensive players up front. Like, I get how they got to this spot. And if you're gonna put Worthy in there, he has to be in the middle. But it's just the funniest picture I've ever seen.
What if it's like a depth perception thing? And it's like more just like that he's just farther away than everybody.
I think you can clearly see that he's standing in front of.
He's standing in front of Hunter Norzad.
It's even better. Okay. Yeah. I said I can't do a whole lot. Get excited about rookie minicamp just in general. I can get a little bit more out of it for skill position players and offensive linemen. I think Andy kind of nailed it. There's no contact. There's no one-on-ones. They're just doing drills. It's drills. And that's not to take away from what he said, that this is one of the more promising groups they've had come in. I can fully buy that. That they look really good. I can buy that. Andy Reid did also say, we'll see what it looks like when other guys get in here, referencing like, hey, once OTA start, now we'll get a little bit more competition. We'll get to see them compared to other guys. We'll see what they retain. We can do a few more challenging competitive things. So we'll see how it plays out again going forward, kind of like everything else. I just think there's a little bit less to take away from rookie minicamp, rookie camp in terms of offensive linemen. If a guy looks bad at rookie minicamp, like that's a problem, right? If anybody ever looks bad at rookie minicamp, that's not a good thing. Because you're just doing drills. You're literally, and I know we talked about the Derrick Henry drill at the beginning, but again, that's one drill. I bet if we go back and look, nobody was like, oh, Derrick Henry looks terrible. I bet all the reports were how he impressed them besides this one drill that made it out. So like everyone's going to look good at rookie minicamp.
Craig, real quick before you jump in. Am I like hearing the Lamb making its podcast debut just like slightly, or is that just me? It sounded like I heard the lamb in the background.
So, in your world, I'm keeping my lamb in my house or in the office?
Maybe just outside the office in a field.
Maybe just in your lap, just like snuggling.
I just heard
that would be pretty awesome.
I heard something.
You might hear an angry baby, which is also yeah, that's a possibility.
Okay. I like that you jumped to lamb though. That was good. That's good. No, of course the offensive linemen look good in rookie minicamp. They can all move. Like they are all great elite movers. Like every single one of these guys, when you go down the list, what are they best at? Movement. What are they worst at? Maybe some of the other more physical things. So yeah, you put them in rookie minicamp where they can't really line up across from somebody and hit them and get taken advantage of by the defender who has a little more pass rush moves than they do and really kind of exploits some of the things that they don't do well. Yeah, you're getting out in space. I'm sure that when they are running screenplays right now in rookie minicamp, that having guys like Hunter Norzad, Kingsley Suamataia, and CJ Hansen out in space in front of Carson Steele, it looks great. I'm sure it does. They're paving the way. They're able to outrun some of these guys. Like, I'm sure it does look great. So I am taking that with a massive grain of salt here. But in the same time, we are not too far removed from them drafting a Creed Humphrey and a Trey Smith in the same year and showing up to rookie minicamp, and we did not have this sort of heat around these guys. Now, again, they didn't have the movement ability. Creed did, but Trey didn't have the movement ability of some of these other guys. So I can see how they get there with this group. I can see how Andy's excited for this group because he's getting back to some of his staples that maybe he hasn't been able to run as well in the past with some of these heavier tackles, maybe some slower footed players that are out in space. Now all of a sudden you've got some really elite movers. So yeah, you get a little bit excited about that, but I am definitely like this is the one that matters. Like even through training camp, it's not going to be until preseason week 1 before I start getting hyped about any of the players on offensive line outside of maybe a Kingsley, just to see how that technique cleans up a little bit, because that's a true path to him being a starting left tackle for Andy Reid.
Oh, I will be looking heavily at the photos of Chiefs OTAs and mini camps to figure out if Kingsley's playing left tackle for this team. Just be warned, I will be looking into every single photo very intently to try to see if we can figure that out. We're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
Appreciate everyone hanging out with us on a Monday night or listening to us Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever you eventually do that. We appreciate your support of KC Sports Network. We really do. It means a lot. We've done positional breakdowns last few years. This went very interestingly last year with the Andy Reid cheeseburger scale. Maddie, you said you had some ideas. Why don't you just kind of set the tone for this whole summer here, buddy?
Do you hear him distancing himself from the cheeseburger scale? No, it's Andy's. It's not ours.
Okay, last year, those of us that were listening, we did the cheeseburger scale, and it was established by Andy Reid, and we broke down and compared the Chiefs' positions to various cheeseburger establishments around the Kansas City area, and that's how we ranked them.
That's what you call it, established?
And it went great. People loved it. Some people didn't like it, but people were talking. It got people going, okay? And so this year, I'm scrapping the cheeseburger scale. The cheeseburger scale is out. Cheeseburgers are definitely 2023.
Thank God.
We are moving on to newer and more clear and more direct and easier to understand heights. So for this year, we are no longer using the cheeseburger scale. We are, in fact, using the Italian food scale this season to rank Kansas City Chiefs positional groups. So the Italian food scale goes as follows. Of course, the top dog is Garozzo's. If you haven't been and you're in the Kansas City area, make your way to Garozzo's. Get yourself a Spadini. It's phenomenal. Next up, close second, but it's clearly second place, Cascone's. Also delicious. Haven't been, get there, have a lot of fun. Garozzo's elite, perfect. This is what you want to shoot for. Cascone's, this is very good. This is above average. This is a good spot to be in. Go ahead, Craig. You have a question.
I was just going to say, are you trying to get a mob hit put out on you? You better be careful about these last two, buddy.
Oh, well, we say face the last two.
Okay.
Now, the below average, this works. This will get me through a tough night. This can get us through a tough weekend, but we really want to get better than this. Olive Garden. Yeah, it's fine. You can go to Olive Garden. You're not hating yourself, but also you want to do better. And then finally, this needs a ton of improvement. We don't like it. We have to deal with it. Fazoli's.
Yeah.
It's the bottom rung of
Yes.
Kansas City Chiefs Italian food
Yes.
scale.
Let's
Any
go.
questions? Any complaints?
Can you list those off top to bottom again for the people at home and definitely not for me?
Oh, for sure.
I wrote them down.
Garozzo's, elite. Cascone's, very good. Olive Garden, yeah, okay, it works. Fazoli's.
He said Fazoli's. Oh my God. I love it. Okay. Let's do quarterback. Garozzo's. All right. Moving on to defensive tackle.
Yeah.
No,
You could,
Tucker,
right?
Tucker, you're fine. Tucker, you're fine. I see you panicking for a second. No, let's talk a little bit about the Garozzo's of the National Football League, and some would say the history of the sport. The quarterback position sitting phenomenally with Patrick Lavon Mahomes,
Andy and Book,
and also Ian Book. I will say I do think this might wind up being the best backup quarterback the Chiefs have ever had. I know, and I think it's kind of weird because Chad Henne they can win you. Chad Henne can put a drive together, and Chad Henne can be consistent and smart and make good decisions with the football and get you down the field. And then I see Carson Wentz Carson Wentz might be able to win you two out of three. He might be able to put a small stretch together in case something did indeed happen to Patrick Mahomes for a stretch that forced him to miss games. I feel better about Carson Wentz's presence in this team for a extended period of time than any quarterback I think this team has ever had.
Yeah, I think we're all going to agree about Patrick Mahomes. Like, that's a Garozo's. That's easy. And this whole position group is top of the line. It's elite. There's no real questions to be asked or holes to be poked. And I think you only further strengthen that when you look at Carson Wentz. Like, this is a guy that was in the running for an MVP season a while ago, but not that long ago, right?
That's 6 teams ago.
That is still within the realm, not a possibility, but like that is still within the memory of a youth like myself. Carson Wentz was an MVP candidate, right? And so that's giving them an awesome backup quarterback to go with Patrick Mahomes, whether this guy's going to step in for a series, for a game, if you need to, whatever it may be. And I think even if you drive down further down the list, like we got Oladokin and Ian Book. Oh, what a battle for QB3. I know. I don't think it's a battle really. It's just, I like what I've seen out of Chris going through the preseasons and stuff like that. I think he's gotten better each and every single time we've got to see him go out there. I like him as this developmental quarterback 3 that they don't have to put on the 53-man rosters. Like, there's not really any holes to poke in this position other than the fact that Carson Wentz doesn't have a number, which could be a problem.
Yeah. Carson Wentz, clearly the best backup that they have had with Patrick Mahomes as the starting quarterback. So I believe we even place this atop the cheeseburger scale last year. It's only gotten better. Like, it really has just gotten better. Carson Wentz going to be a little bit of a roller coaster at times, but so was Blaine Gabbert. So was Chad Henne. Yeah, Blaine Gabbert was a lot.
Blaine Gabbert was just bad.
Well, no, he was fine. He was
fine. I'll say it.
He was a backup quarterback.
I think he was the worst back. I'm not trying to dunk on Blaine Gabbert. I think he was the worst backup quarterback that the Chiefs have had in the Patrick Mahomes era. Please continue.
I mean, but I think we all remember Chad Henne stepping in, Matt Moore stepping in, winning games for this team when they absolutely needed that to happen. And so we just kind of chalked that up as, hey, they're definitely going to need this. They're definitely going to need it at some point. They didn't need Blaine Gabbert to do that last year. And so an ideal scenario here is that you're paying Carson Wentz a fairly decent sum of money here, not like elite backup quarterback money or anything, but decent enough money to be a backup and never take an actual snap or to take only the week 18 snaps. Like, that's what you are hoping for here. Carson Wentz can do a little bit more than what some of those other guys have been able to do. He's familiar with the offense, especially under Doug Peterson. That's where he was having some of his, most success in the NFL was under Doug. He's going under a similar system here. He's got good supporting roles here. He's going to be able to not have a ton of pressure on him. He's not competing for a spot like he has been over the past several years until very, very recently with last year. It's always been a little bit of a weight on his shoulders here. He shows up to Kansas City before the season starts. He's going to get the full playbook. He's not expected to contribute in a massive way for this team in any way, shape, or form. So, yeah, you're still relying on Patrick Mahomes, and you've got a good quality backup here and a good quality third QB, like good enough quality third QB. It's a very easy Garozo's here.
I think I like the room too. Like, I think it's a great way of putting it, just beyond the top 2. It's like, I think there's always been a good soundboard, or a good kind of guy in the room for Patrick, a guy like Chris Oladokin or a Shane Buechele. Like, Shane Buechele is he's out in Miami right now with Patrick Mahomes right now. Like, he's still got a relationship with the Shane Buechele even outside of that. So, like, I think it's kind of cool to see. Can we move on to the defensive tackle? Is that all right?
Yeah, I think so. I think we can get back out, jump in the car. We got to go and hit our second course. Which Italian restaurant are we going to now, Kent?
I guess Maddie doesn't think this is a Garozo's, or else he would have just stayed.
I think it's funny that we have paired the two of the biggest blue chips in not only this season but team history together with the defensive tackles and the quarterback. So defensive tackles, I'm going to give it a Cascones. I think it's a very good position, and I think that very good is doing with Chris Jones doing a lot of the heavy lifting. He is the one with the Parmesan cheese scraper that is just loading up your salad and loading up your meal right there, because he's doing a lot of heavy lifting for this team when it comes to the defensive tackle position. That's always been the case, though. This has always been the case with the defensive tackle position. I think, they're kind of spending big with Chris and really not making a ton of major investments or major, signing a bunch of big players beyond that. They've got a lot of players on 1-year deals. They have a lot of players. I think they have 4 players on 1-year deals. They've brought back Turk Wharton. They have Mike Pennell, Derek Nottie, Matt Dickerson, Isaiah Buggs. Then you've got Neil Farrell, who you traded for last year, and then Fabian Levette, someone that could potentially sneak in there on the roster. But I think this is a very good group, but the heavy lifting is being done by a blue chip player, one of the best defensive tackles in all of football, Chris Jones.
Did you guys hear the part where Kent, telling on his food takes there, where he was like, yeah, it's the part where they just put a whole bunch up of your salad.
Oh, no. Yeah, I did. I wanted to gloss over it. I was going to let that one live.
They do it in every Italian restaurant. This isn't like an Olive Garden thing. Just because it's famous there.
You reference that as like the best part of the meal.
That was
I'm
Chris
saying
Jones
the heavy
was
lifting,
the Parmesan cheese.
I'm just saying he's giving you that extra. He's going that extra mile. He's the one that's really doing more of the work here. It's not just this. It's like it made sense.
More the work of the individual sprinkling the Parmesan than the actual Parmesan.
Sure.
That Italian food, very bland without the Parmesan. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I know. That's it. Can I say something really quick? Sorry about
this.
this.
Is
good. I don't really like. I get putting the Parmesan on your salad more than I get it putting on your Italian food, because I don't think the Parmesan enhances the extra fresh shredded Parmesan enhances most like the meal that much. Like I don't think you can tell very often. Maybe it's just because like I'm doing like an Alfredo most of the time, so that might be part of it. But I don't think the fresh.
What do you think's an Alfredo?
It's Parmesan. I'm just saying, like on a lasagna,
my cheese, I can't really taste.
On a lasagna, I'm not noticing it as much. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I maybe thought that Matty was going to get the mob hit put out on him, and it's you. I'm sorry, buddy.
I love you, kid. Go from here. I'm glad you shared that with us. I needed something to replace judging the taste of nuts via what is best with chocolate, and I think it's now Parmesan.
Out of context, just clip that, Tucker. Yeah, I need you to clip that.
All right. Well, how do we get this back on track now and away from Parmesan cheese is overrated? Fresh Parmesan cheese is overrated. I'd say it's the Joe Burrow. So let's go defensive tackle room. I also go Cascones. I think it's exceptional. It's very good. And that's a lot because of Chris Jones. I will say this. It's like going there and just ordering the meatball pasta marinara. It's good. You know it's going to be good. And yes, you get Parmesan cheese on there because that's the only way you get Chris Jones, apparently. And it's very good. But like, if you're going to go there, that's not what I'm going for. That's not what I'm springing for. I'm not springing for that level. And the reason that I think the defensive tackle room is just like a nice, good, but basic dish that you are going to basic Italian dish that you can get anywhere that I don't know if you can overly enhance anywhere is because they have surrounded him with a bunch of 1-year, just another guy role players all around him. They have given him not a running mate. They haven't given him somebody. It's Cascones, but they take away like your bread and oil. You don't get the oil to dip your bread in to start. They took all that away because they just signed a bunch of 1-year deals, right? Like it's good. It's very good. I don't want to take anything away from the room, but I don't think they put enough help around there. So it's a lower in Cascones meal is what this defensive tackle room is, because Chris Jones is great. You got to start preserving him. We got to get more years out of Chris Jones, and that means he can't play 80% of the snaps. That means he can't be the linchpin to every defensive series, to every third down. And no offense, I love Mike Pennell, and I like some of the shots are taken on like guys like Isaiah Buggs and things like that, but nobody else on this roster, the defensive tackle position, like, am I ever going to be upset if they play 0 snaps? It's just never going to be upsetting if somebody in that defensive tackle room besides Chris Jones plays 0 snaps, because nobody has really deserved a huge share of those snaps.
Yeah, they haven't earns the wrong word because they've clearly all these guys have earned the snaps at the NFL level here, but it's not one of those things where you're like, oh, I prefer that guy over that guy. It's a lot of personal preference because the play isn't on the field. Much different from DT2 down to DT6 right now. Now, that could change in camp. It could change. We could see this maybe elevate beyond a Cascones because you've got an elite player in the room, a guy that now for 2 years in a row has played at an all-pro level, got paid at an all-pro level, is probably going to play at an all-pro level again this year. That is worth alone. We just gave one to the quarterback there. That is worth alone at least at Cascones because that room is going to live and die by Chris Jones. And I know that that's one of those things that you look at and you're like, man, I don't like the gamble on that. I don't like the gamble on that. The reason you don't like the gamble on that this year is because Chris is a little bit older. Every single year that Chris has been here, it's been like this. It's been basically the interior defensive line. It's been him and a bunch of guys that you could take or leave. Yes, Derek Notty's had some peak years here. Mike Pinnell's had some really good games. Colin Saunders had a couple of really good games as well. You've seen Turk Wharton have some impact plays there. But it's not something that you're like, okay, that's the guy next to Chris Jones. That's the guy that I feel comfortable spelling Chris Jones. Snap in, snap out, able to really line up and affect the game. Not the way that Chris Jones is, but even at maybe even a league average level. And that's where my concern is. That's why we talked about defensive line so much with this team during the draft, especially when we got to, the day 3 picks, where all of a sudden you're looking at the defensive line selections and you're thinking, there's a couple of guys on here that might actually break into DT2 on this team. You could feel a little bit more comfortable with some of them. They were pounding the table a little bit for some of them. I like the guys that they picked. I'm not saying that they should have taken a defensive tackle over somebody else, but now we are in a situation where the room is what it has been every single year for the past Spags years here. Every single year it's been like this. And Chris Jones is getting older, and you don't want to burn him out early in this brand new contract. I am looking for maybe another free agent addition, maybe another guy that they can add to the 90-man roster just to try and push this group a little bit here. And may the best one of these guys that they're just taking random wild shots on to win, that's what makes it Cascones.
Maddie, real quick, sidebar. If I called it door-dashed Cascones, is that a good way of compare? Like it's like low tier Cascones where it's like it doesn't deliver as well. It's just like it's a little more warm.
No,
we like this better than my cheese analogy.
I can fully get on board. Like that's the same thing I'm going with, right? Like, yeah, it's very good, but it could even be better. It's in the lower end of the Cascones tier. I agree with you 100%. I think DoorDash is a much better and a much more direct way to get to it than saying Parmesan cheese is overrated and doesn't enhance my Alfredo dish.
Can't believe you.
I don't. Yeah. I don't even know, man. I don't know. When I look at the.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I was saying Craig mentioned a point that, he wouldn't mind seeing somebody else added. What kind of player would you think that what level of player needs to be added for you to think that would either elevate them to a Garozzo's or if you're with Kent and I to an upper tier Cascones?
I don't think it's ever going to get to a Garozzo's because I don't think you can't add a player that's going to push it up to that tier. Yeah, I just don't think so. I'm honestly fine with letting this nose tackle group fight it out. I don't need another nose tackle unless he's a guy that's going to crush the pocket a little bit more than some of these other guys. I want another guy to push Turk Wharton. Like, I love Turk.
Yeah.
Coming off of an injury. We've seen it kind of dwindling over the past couple of years. I would like to see another guy for Turk to have to beat out because right now he's the only 3-tech that you trust behind Chris Jones. Like, the spot is his at this point. Like, you're not giving it to somebody else. One of these other guys probably not stepping in and beating Turk Wharton out. So I want another guy to at least have Turk win the job outright, win this backup 3-technique job outright, or push him to the point where there's a tough decision to be made there. So it doesn't have to be a starting level player. I'm not saying that. Chris Jones is there. You want him playing 60% of the snaps, ideally, not 90. So give me another guy that I feel comfortable with those 40% of the snaps on the field instead of Chris that can be on the field more consistently.
Calais Campbell.
I would take a 1 year stab at him. Again, it's that level of player. If Turk Wharton beats him out, cool. Good for Turk.
I'm trying to look through real quick. I was just looking through at some of the free agents. There's not a lot of guys out there with a little bit of pass rush like juice at all. There's a handful of guys that I think could come in and add to that same 1 year rotational nose tackle spot, but I don't think they need more of those guys. I don't think there's anybody that's clearly an improvement there. So it's a matter of, can you find somebody that can offer you a little bit of juice instead of Turk, a better than Turk? And Sheldon Day, maybe, but I don't think that he's kind of hit a little bit of a flat line. Calais Campbell's older, but he's the guy. Maybe you bring in like a Ross Blacklock. Oh no, he's a restricted free agent, so he doesn't even count. I don't see a lot of options.
Yeah, and I think Turk Wharton looked a little bit better as the season went on. Like he looked like he was really struggling earlier in the year, and I think he got a little bit better as the season went on. And I think the hope is probably that he makes more progress farther removed from that injury, and if he gets closer to the guy that we saw pre-injury, then that'll play a little bit. Like that guy will play a little bit. And so like that's, probably one of the hopes and expectations for the Chiefs is that Turk Wharton's going to be a guy that's going to be able to step in and do a little bit more than he did last year, which I would
love that.
Yeah. And it's not a bad bet. I mean, they probably have a better pulse on, where he's at than anybody else is going to. I mean, they re-signed him back for a reason. So I think that's the hope, right? Is that, you can get a little bit more juice from Turk Wharton, because you're right. This room really does lack firepower. I mean, it's a lot of, run stuffer types and Chris Jones. So hopefully Turk Wharton can step that up. Anything on the defensive tackles before we get out of here, Maddie? Anything else?
Bring Nunez Roches back?
Ooh. No. Nah.
I don't think that's better than Turk. He's a fun guy.
Competition for Turk. That's what I want. Yeah. Competition for Turk.
I'm just scrolling. I'm trying to find anybody out there that that's the problem now. Like, I don't think this is a position that you can probably add at this point. Maybe come June 1st, something shakes loose and you can bring in a vet to that position, right? But as of right now, glancing through here, unless you're going to go after Calais Campbell, which he was fine last year. He was a very fine football player last year. I'm sure he's got plenty of offers, and that guy at 38 years old or whatever is like, I'm going to go ahead and wait until camp. Maybe we get halfway through a camp, especially for a hot summer team. And then I'll come back. So I don't know if they would ever be in the market for that level of player. So maybe something after June comes out. I agree with you, though, that that's the area I'd go. Because even their undrafted free agent, Fabian Lovett, he's another nose tackle type. So like, even if he does hit the ground running and they really like him and he works in there, or Isaiah Buggs, who I think is a sneaky player to like get starter level reps on this team, still more nose tackle-esque. Those guys are still more run stuffers. You don't really have a good spell player, a guy to come in and give Chris Jones a breather until O'Minihue's back and fully healthy. And then it's just rotating your defensive ends inside, which is fine on third downs. I don't know if you want to put those guys in there on first down when there's a chance of a run. Not that you really want Turk in there on a run down either. So I think that they should add competition there if they can. I just don't know what's going to be available as the offseason goes on.
Calais needs to come and get his ring.
I thought you were going to have a pun. I was so excited for some kind of Calais level pun. And then he just Parmesan cheesed it.
Yeah, I think everything I've said has been too cheesy already today. That's going to do it for this episode of the KC Laboratory. Thank you all so much. We appreciate you. We love you. We'll be better next week.
Look at the rookie picks picture, though.